Late Night Health continues. I'm Mark Alyn. In about 20 minutes from now, we'll be joined by Robert Clancy. Today is the launch of his book, Soul Ciphers. So we'll be talking about decoding your life for a wonderful life. And we'll find out more about that from Robert in about 20 minutes from now. Now we go to Dr. Howard Kushner, who's the author of On the Other Hand, talking about left-handedness. Dr. Kushner, the first question is obvious, I think. Are you left-handed?
I am. I have to admit to being left-handed.
So aren't some great leaders and thought leaders in history, haven't they been left-handed?
They have. Of course, the ones that are left-handed that aren't great leaders are criminals we don't know much about. But it is true that, and so when we see one, right, we tend to generalize. The last 5 of the last 10 presidents, 5 have been left-handed. I guess it's up to other historians to determine whether that was good or bad.
Absolutely. Well, I didn't realize that. And there's a stigma, obviously, with being left-handed. I've talked to friends who went to parochial schools, and nuns would hit them if they tried to write with their left hand.
Right. Correct.
Yes, I was going to say. Why is that? Why the stigma about being left-handed versus right-handed?
Well, it goes back a long time in human history, and it's sort of the left is seen as profane and the right is seen as sacred. And, early humans, and I guess humans even today, always contrast things that this is good and this is bad, so there's good and evil. And this is one way to explain the difference. And since the left-handers were always a minority, and the right-handers are making the decisions, left-handedness became a useful kind of proxy for things that were wrong, evil, the devil's work. In fact, if you think of all the words for left-handedness or for left in all languages, they're all negative, like sinistra in Italian or in Latin, gauche in French. Our word left comes from links, for broken, from German. So, and in China, left means having taken the wrong path. So,
oh boy.
It was a convenient way to do it, and also people don't know what to do with diversity when it seems to be a minority. There must be some significance to it, otherwise it wouldn't be there. So first it was explained in religious terms, and then ultimately in scientific terms. So that authorized these people to forcibly switch hands that you just pointed out to us a minute ago. And my mother was forcibly switched from being a left-hander to a right-hander. I've interviewed hundreds of people that have similar stories, and closer to now than you'd think, and even as late as the 1950s and 60s in the United States. Now, left-handedness is seen in a much more positive way in the West.
Oh, but there's also, there are left-handed clubs, organizations. There are left-handed tennis rackets and golf clubs. My father-in-law is left-handed, and he played golf for 2 weeks, called me up and said, "You want a set of golf clubs?" Which I didn't, but because he bought right-handed clubs. No, he bought left-handed clubs, and I'm right-handed. I couldn't use them.
Interesting, that how people's, in sports, now being left-handed has an advantage, and has for a while. But actually, I don't know what a left-handed. I play tennis left-handed. I don't know what a left-handed tennis racket is, but I do know what right-handed golf clubs are, because when I play golf, which is rare, I have to play right-handed, and I bat right-handed.
Oh, that's interesting.
So a lot of people have these sort of mixed handedness. Some which ear is strong, which eye is strong, and particularly in sports, the Chinese who claim they have almost no left-handers. Anyhow, they don't report very many. I've just recently discovered there's a great advantage in ping pong to be left-handed. So now they're encouraging ping pong players to be left-handed.
And they, of course, travel the world with their ping pong teams. We should mention that you're a distinguished professor of science and society emeritus at Emory. And are you still teaching at San Diego State University?
Yeah, and at UCSD, University of California, San Diego, jointly. So yes, I am.
And you're emeritus there as well.
Yeah, I'm emeritus 3 places, which doesn't make a lot of sense, right? I have to be older than I am, but it worked out fine. Everyone seems to be nice to me, and I still enjoy teaching, so I'm teaching this term.
We've talked about the religious aspect. Are people really that misunderstood about being left-handed? I mean, is there any significance to being left-handed in terms of mental powers, for example?
Well, there are claims that left-handers are smarter, more creative, but also other claims that they have more learning disabilities. When I started this project, I thought this would be a very easy thing. I wonder why people are left-handed. I was sure it must be something positive, on some sort of U curve. The more I learned, the more complicated it seemed to be. So it's hard to be certain, but there certainly has been a movement, right? I'd say the clearest thing first is that the danger of being left-handedness is much more comes from the people who are trying to switch left-handers than it does from anything about left-handedness itself.
But they're not doing that as much, are they?
No, but in the rest of the world they still are. Right, and so in America, the rates of, for instance, stuttering has been tied to forcible switching, and the rates of stuttering have declined as forcible switching has declined. It's not all the reasons for stuttering, but it's some of it. So there has been a big movement, though, among left-handers since the 1990s. We could almost say it's kind of a left-handed pride movement with stores for left-handers and arguments that left-handers are smarter because they're in their right brains. Mm-hmm. So when you look at these things carefully, the arguments sound better than the evidence produces. So, and I think part of the reason for that is we're looking for the single cause of something. What causes left-handed? Is it a gene? Is it something in childhood? And it may very well be that there are a variety of different forces that both biological and social, that end up in left-handedness, just like with the golf clubs, right?
Right.
Some people are left-handed in one sport and right-handed in another.
We're talking with Howard Kushner, Dr. Howard Kushner. He's the author of On the Other Hand, Left Hand, Right Brain, Mental Disorder, and History. Are there indications that there are mental disorders with those who write with their left hand?
Well, there's certainly been a lot of claims like that and lots of studies. Autism, almost every learning disability at one time or other has been connected to left-handedness. Schizophrenia. I began working, before this I was working on Tourette syndrome, and there were claims that was so. In fact, I think I made some of them. But on careful examination, it turns out that it's not such an easy task. First of all, it's hard to define what we mean by left-handedness. Is it someone who uses their left hand for almost everything? And the other thing is that left-handedness is a proxy for brain-sidedness. In other words, instead of seeing where language is in the brain, we use the hand and say, well, the left hand is in the right brain, the left brain is the right hand. But when we look at that carefully, it turns out it's not true either, at least not all the time. Only 18% of left-handers are actually right brain for language. So whether handedness is really a good proxy for learning disabilities is a serious question.
Right brain tends to mean creative, left brain more analytical.
That's right. That's what people claim.
Right.
Right.
So is there any relationship between that and which hand you use? And I'm going to say to write with.
Yeah, okay, let's take writing. Well, the answer is no, because although only 18% of left-handers have language or writing in their right hemisphere, 5% of right-handers also have language in their right hemisphere. Well, since there are 10 right-handers for every left-hander, there are actually more right-handers who have language in their right brain in terms of numbers than there are left-handers. So if you really want to know, where language is, you have to really do some kind of, to do scanning or some other kind of intervention where we get directly to the brain rather than use the hand as a substitute for the brain.
And it would seem to me that it could be individual. I mean, Daryl and I are both right-handed, but in a scan, he could be, and he's both. He's both right-brained and left-brained. You are. You're analytical. You're an engineer, and you're very creative. You're a radio guy. So. Could it be individual?
Sure, and it could be different individual reasons why that took place. So that's why it's hard to generalize, because we're looking, when we compare cases to reliability, that every case looks the same, but they actually don't. So there are arguments that left-handedness comes from in utero trauma, and these were very popular for a while. Now there's a claim that pretty much it's a gene, but the gene hasn't been discovered yet.
I mean, your mother was left-handed.
Yes, she was.
Right.
And I was always, as a child, I always contrasted her left-handedness, which she was forcibly switched, and therefore was somewhat. She had difficulty sewing, and she was somewhat awkward. But I was encouraged to be a left-hander. So there's obviously a big cultural issue here. In terms of the effect of left-handedness or the attitude of people toward left-handedness, as there's probably a strong biological feature as well.
In that left-handedness, Jewish, Christian, Islamic, are they all the same? Left-handed, bad, right, good? Yeah,
pretty much. There are other philosophers, ancient philosophers, who saw, like Plato, who said that, we shouldn't discriminate against left-handedness because we use both our legs. Why can't we use both our hands? And I think that's the other thing. Most of us are mixed in one way or another, so we still use our other hand. We don't not use it at all.
And when we talk... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, but there was a time in schools where using your left hand for anything was scientifically justified to forcibly switch them. And before that, it was just something that was done.
Right. The Alzheimer's Association encourages people who are right-handed to write or do something with your left hand to retrain your brain, to keep your brain fresh. So I brush my teeth right-handed most of the time, but every now and then I switch it up.
There you go.
I remember.
I hope it's protective against left-handers, against Alzheimer's. I'm going to try it myself and see what happens.
Well, you'll start brushing your teeth with your right hand.
Of course.
Yes, of course. Howard Kushner, Dr. Kushner, the author of On the Other Hand, Left Hand, Right Brain, Mental Disorder, and History. I was thinking of Leonardo da Vinci. He was known to write inside out. Well, maybe our next conversation we can talk about that. Doctor, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye. All right, coming up next, Robert Clancy, who's got to be very excited with the release of his new book, Soul Ciphers. Don't go away. More coming up as Late Night Health continues. Join us at latenighthealth.com.
Welcome to Guide to the Soul. This is Robert Clancy. Hope is one of those words that has no synonyms. It just simply is, and it's something that you'll have in your life as long as you want it. You can only lose hope when you choose to let go of it. So why let go? Each day of your life is a blank canvas, and you will always have a choice on how you paint it. It takes courage to take a journey of hope, but it's up to you to take that first step. And it's always accomplished by taking one step at a time. Hope is the greatest beacon you have to help you find your way out of the shadows of darkness, back to the light of a new day.
For more inspiration from Robert Clancy, visit guidetothesoul.com or go to the Moments with Robert page on latenighthealth.com.
Attention users of the blood-thinning drug Xarelto. If you took the drug Xarelto and experienced complications such as cerebral hemorrhage, gastrointestinal bleeding or other internal bleeding, or if a loved one has died after taking Xarelto, you may be eligible to get a cash award for your suffering. Call the Xarelto Help Hotline now at 1-800-264-3150. That's 800-264-3150. To qualify for a cash settlement, you must file a claim before the deadline, so don't miss your opportunity for a cash settlement. Call 800-264-3150 now for a free, no-obligation consultation. Our call center is open 24/7. So if you took the drug Xarelto and experienced cerebral hemorrhage, gastrointestinal bleeding, or other internal bleeding, or if a loved one has died after taking Xarelto, call the Xarelto Help Hotline now at 800-264-3150, 800-264-3150. That's 800-264-3150.